Hello and welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. It is a Tuesday in December. The year is 2023, and Viking fans are frustrated. We are 2 days removed from. Go ahead, Kyle.
Time is a flat circle. Vikings fans are frustrated. Man. Yeah, that applies to a lot of seasons around here.
If we had a dartboard, everything's split symmetrically into however many, there would just be a large chunk that says you are going to be mad, and that's mostly where you're going to land when you blindly throw a dart at the Vikings fandom dartboard. Adam Carlson, how are you, sir?
Am I getting older, or was the intro music really loud?
It might have been loud. It was definitely loud in my headphones, but I also keep one off. I let it play in my bad ear so it doesn't feel as bad. That's how you know I'm old.
Your government ear?
Oh, dude, they took all of it. So, yeah, the Vikings played a game. And spoiler alert, if you're just looking for a score, you can rewind back 2 years because they had the same exact scenario happen, only this time it wasn't the Joe Burrow-led Bengals. It was the other JB, the Jake Browning-led Bengals that beat us in overtime, 27-24. I'm going to start off with this. My buddy Mike, I love you. He had a heated space on Twitter the other day, and he's calling for KOC's head. He wants Brian Flores to take over. I am far removed from that. I don't agree with that at all. But I do love the engagement that brings because it brings up conversation, and I want to know, why do you feel this way? Because that's a dramatic.
Well, I think we can all agree that there were some definite mistakes from the head coach's game. But I don't think that it's grounds for termination or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm nowhere near that point of getting ready to fire KOC. I mean, I am frustrated, particularly. I think the game comes down to the back-to-back quarterback sneaks on 3rd and 4th down. That cost us the game. I think we can kind of all agree on that, right? It boils down to that specific moment. I think that really cost us the game.
Uh-oh.
The 2 turnovers in enemy territory was the killer.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, no shit. But I mean, you come down to that. But you come down to that specific moment. Those 2 plays cost us the game. Like that was your chance to come back and try to win it.
I can't believe the Vikings put themselves in that position when they had the game in hand. They were moving the ball well. They were skidding in the end zone sometimes, and a couple of those throws were highly questionable, the ones that didn't get intercepted. And there were the 2 that did, and then that amazing contorting touchdown by T. Higgins was just, I can't even be mad about it. I'm impressed.
Not mad about that play. What I'm mad about is when I go to the stats here on ESPN and I see 21 fourth quarter points from the Bengals. That's absurd. You're up at that point 17-3. Actually, I don't know who scored first, but that would have made it 24-3. I'd have to look back in the sequence of the game. But anyway, let's talk about that. We were talking about the KOC stuff. I agree the interceptions were terrible. What I can't understand now that I look at it on paper, we named it in the chat, especially me in all caps when I had a bad case of Tourette's again the other day. I'm sorry about that. Ty Chandler, 132 yards. He's averaging 5.7 yards a carry. And you give it to the quarterback not only once but twice. And the thing that sent me over the edge for this game, not to fire the coach, but to really, I hope the rest of the coaches in there chewed Kevin O'Connell's ass. Brian Flores is clear as day seen call the timeout in between.
Push
number 1 and 2. Call the timeout, and he doesn't do it. That is a young head coaching mistake. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the only one. I've seen Sean McVay make stupid decisions with the clock management, even this season, and the Rams are kind of surging right now. I've seen John Harbaugh do this. I've seen fucking Bill Belichick's done it. But to have these games in hand where you could have won, this is 3 out of the last 4. And let's not forget, the only game the Vikings have won out of the last month for 4 weeks. They won 3-0 when the offense was absolute dog shit. So the Vikings are not in a particularly good state heading into the most important football of the season because as it stands, they have 3 games left. 2 are at U.S. Bank, and they're all 3 division games, and it comes down to this. And they are not playing great in good moments. Now, to shift it and let you guys talk, they did have a ton of offense and a ton of yards. This just came down to some boneheaded mistakes that the Vikings inevitably always make.
I'll give them the 3rd down play call. Okay, you know what? We're going to try it. We're going to try the quarterback.
The one before or after the timeout?
Exactly.
Because coming back to it after you get it and they call a timeout and the play doesn't count, coming back and doing the same thing, but having your tiny wide receiver get 2 hands full of cheeks and push. It's like, come on.
Everything about that play optically was bad. And here's the thing. We got to remind you guys, they've done a trick play this year. I think it was a fake punt. And it went beautifully. I know you have plays that can get you a yard.
Jefferson throw again.
I mean, not only trick plays, but like basic ass versions of the playbook. You couldn't have given it to your fullback. You guys don't think that CJ Ham could have got, what was that? A yard, half a yard on a carry there? Ty Chandler having a good game. He couldn't have got that small of a distance. Like there was just no basic ass high school.
Or even if you know everyone's coming, a quick play action pass to pick up a yard or 2.
Right.
Crazy.
It's baffling. And let me remind you guys all the things that we could, because this particular play, we need to throw the tomatoes at Kevin O'Connell for it. He needs criticism for it. You have to understand, not only do you have a running back who's having the best running performance of any running back all year, you have a fullback on the roster. Fucking use him.
But the play did work before the timeout, so I get, let's go and do it again. But come on, you got to change things up, be a little creative and imaginative. Keep the defense on their toes, and when you see the defense lined up right in the middle there, make some adjustments.
The rough part, too, as Kyle mentioned, you have one of your tiniest wide receivers, one of the smallest bodies on the roster pushing behind. Like, that's going to do anything. I mean,
Brandon Powell, 5 foot 881 pounds of Brandon Powell is going to push your largely immobile quarterback in Nick Mullins out there. Like,
and Garrett Bradbury already got pushed back right off the snap, so that had no chance.
Now, can we transition this to a different topic? Because I keep seeing this now, because you guys already kind of know where I'm probably going to go with this. Every time that we lose, there's someone you want to put the finger at. And this season in particular, out of all the seasons we've all watched collectively, we need to go back to Josh Dobbs. We need to go to Jaron Hall. I still think Nick Mullins gives you the best chance to win on this team. Does anybody disagree? And if you do, I'd love to hear it.
I think they need to stick with the decision. Starting 4 different quarterbacks in the same season. And we know why. There's been injuries and ups and downs and whatever. It's not like that was your plan. But starting 4 quarterbacks in the same season is never a recipe for success, ever. So they have to just make a decision and stick with it for the remainder of the season. You can't continue to play musical chairs and expect to have any kind of sustained success.
I was in the camp stick with Dobbs, but I get moving on from him, so now I'm in the stick with Mullins. Just let the offense figure things out or try to figure things out.
I'm with you, Adam. I think you thank Josh Dobbs for 2 games that wins are hard to come by. So when you get them this year, you say, thanks. Hey, you did your job. Great. We're going to go with the guy who was here before the season started and is closer to Kirk Cousins. Now, I love it. I understand the mobility of Josh Dobbs, but I like the accuracy and the poise a little better of Nick Mullins. I'm just, man, I get angry during these games because the Vikings seem to give wins away and take losses instead, which is very frustrating. But all in all, I mean, you're looking at Nick Mullins, 303 yards. He had a 99 rating. QBR wasn't great, but I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about overall what happened. Take away those 2 picks. I don't know, man. This game was very winnable, and I loved it. Shifting to the positive here. I love that Ty Chandler went off. I think I don't care what the politics are and what the salary cap says. I think you go with the person who gives you the best chance to win. Remember, we talked about this before. I've mentioned this on this show God knows how many times. When there's one quarterback 1 week randomly out of any year who has a day, and I'm like, yeah, remember when Matt Flynn threw 6 touchdowns? Remember when he went to Seattle and then Russell Wilson came in and was like, no. This is my starting job. They need to do that with the running back. This guy he's the person to go to. I don't think anybody would disagree.
Yeah, they've needed a spark in the running game this season. Madison's been pretty underwhelming, and they've given him a fairly large sample size this season to try to see, hey, was it a bad game? Was it a bad stretch? And I really don't see it with him as the running back one. Ty Chandler was a little bit of a spark. I think that you would want to lean on him a little bit heavier moving forward, especially with you're more uncertain at the quarterback position. So it would make sense that you want to rely a little bit on the run game.
So what kind of split are you thinking about here? Are you thinking about getting Chandler more carries than Madison, or a pretty equal split, or where are you looking at?
I mean, I would think you would want to give him more carries, right?
More carries than Madison, or more carries than he's currently having?
More carries than Madison.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just curious because I've seen people calling for benching Madison and putting Chandler in as one. I've seen people talk about even splits. I've seen people talk about, Chandler leading a split. And, there's so many takes on what Minnesota should do. And it's hard to know what people want or what could be right. You never know.
I think it also comes down to situationally. What do you do? What does this play call for, and then pick the back that does what it needs. And here's a great example too. I'm going to get to your comment, Jonathan, in just a second, but look at the game that just happened a couple days ago. That was beautiful. The Buffalo Bills beat the absolute shit out of the Dallas Cowboys, the reigning #1 seed at the middle of December in the NFL. And you're like, damn, the Cowboys might be legit. And I watched, and thank God for the announcers to call out stuff like this, because I would have never noticed, because everyone on TV looks massive, minus like a Brandon Powell. They're using a back that's super shifty and fast and a little bit of a bruiser for his size. James Cook is not a bruising running back, but he can run pretty aggressively, right? They're subbing in all these huge linebackers for these smaller DBs, and he's like, he's going to run all over these guys. Whatever the situation calls for, and whatever that team that you're facing is called for, use it that week, because we all know this isn't new news. We don't have a premier back anymore. We're not turning around and handing it to Adrian Peterson 30 times a game. You don't have that guy. So why not game plan it specifically? I don't know. That's how I would do it. But let me.
You also don't want to tip off the defense though and be like, okay, we know what's coming here. Madison's in, so it's a run at the gut. And you can't telegraph your plays that way either.
That worked when it was Adrian Peterson, because it didn't matter, because you weren't gonna stop him regardless. Like, everyone in the stands knew that 28 was gonna get the football, and it didn't matter. Like, we don't have that luxury anymore. So you're right, Adam. You don't want to telegraph that by like, Madison's in the game, so he's gonna get it on a screen, or he's gonna line up at receiver. Like, you can't do that.
Going to the comment up here, Jonathan says, Mullins gives us the experience, most reliability. I would still like to see Hall at some point. I'm going to say it, and I know you know this, Jonathan, because you talk with us every week. If you're seeing Jaron Hall, that means it's nothing good has happened. And I want to see him
next preseason.
Yeah. I want to see him next year when it doesn't count. Because if we see him in this season, in the next 3 games, that means Mullins got hurt. And I don't want that to happen. I think he gives us the best chance. What I have to keep telling myself and reminding myself is you have to understand what this season is. The moment that Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles, you wave goodbye. One of my favorite gifts in the entire world is Jake Gyllenhaal on some talk show. He turns around, he waves, he blows him a kiss, and he walks off in the darkness. That was the season this year. If they make it into the playoffs, which they still have a good chance to, don't expect anything. Expect them to go and lose a wild card game, just like last year. And the more I tell myself that and have to amp myself up for it, the more I'm like, you know what? For what they have, they did all right. They did okay. Because look at how many – I'm going to count them up while we talk here, and I'm going to let you guys do it. How many quarterbacks have went down this year? Starting quarterbacks. I'm going to go through every division. Holy shit. We're doing better than most of those teams.
It's always been a confusing set of expectations from fans, I think, for this team, because earlier on it was, well, the Vikings, we've gotten rid of a lot of veteran players, and they're going to take a step back and they're going to rebuild a little bit, and we're also going to win the division and make the playoffs at the same time, was what a lot of people felt. And I've always been pretty firm in it's really difficult to do both things at the same time in the NFL. Like, we're going to rebuild and we're going to win now, and we're going to take a step back and we're going to win the division, are usually not something that happens. Right. So are there some frustrating points to this season? 100%. Are we probably where we were always going to be? Yeah. I mean, what sucks, and I know the point that you're going to get to here in a second, Smith, is that if Kirk Cousins was healthy, with the amount of quarterbacks that have gone down this season, the Vikings should have been running through a lot of these teams right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know that?
The way luck would have it, this would probably have been another, I would say, 12-5 kind of year.
Yeah.
You get those touchdowns that you didn't get. Think about the Bears game. We get beat because we score 1 touchdown and a field goal, and they score 4 field goals. I have all the faith in my mind that Jordan Addison would have already been over 1,000 yards. TJ Hawkinson would have already been over 1,000 yards. And I think 3 or 4 of these wins, I'll go 3. I'll go under that. So take 3 losses away, maybe 3. You'd be 10-3 right now. You'd be in the thick of fighting for the first overall seed if Cousins was here. Because I don't know what it is, but since last September, whatever KOC is whispering into his ear, he's like, dude, just be aggressive and go after it. And I love that side of him. I love seeing that because Kirk was a lot like Diet Aaron Rodgers in a way to me. He didn't want to make the turnover, which he was, always a little afraid, it seemed like, to do, and was always hesitant to go for it. And he's just letting it rip the last 2 seasons. I hate that, but that would, what, Kyle, to your point, that would be it. We would have a bunch of no-name guys we barely heard of starting this year, and it could have been the deep playoff run that we wanted,
I believe Minnesota is still at the 6th seed at the moment.
Yes.
With some of the other teams creeping up. I believe with their loss, Green Bay is now on the outside looking in.
They are. The Rams snuck in above them. The Rams are on a quiet little streak. They're doing pretty well. They would go to Dallas now that Dallas lost. We would go to Detroit, and the Philadelphia Eagles would visit Tampa Bay on Super Wild Card Weekend if the season ended today. So
I can't imagine taking on the Eagles in the wild card round.
Hey, they're very beatable. There's a blueprint out there. I cannot believe Drew Lock and the Seahawks beat them last night. There's a lot of crazy games over the weekend.
Crazy is another way to say bad.
Yes, you're correct.
There's been a lot of bad football this season.
I just know I woke up and saw this emotional Instagram post about Drew Lock, and I was like, they beat the Eagles? Nice. Then it said the last however many years, the Eagles always lose to the Seahawks, and it's Pete Carroll's got their number. I was like, that's pretty crazy. These are the
Seattle's creeping up, and Minnesota's got to keep an eye on that because they are a team that could pass up Minnesota in that wild card situation.
Today is Jake Gyllenhaal's birthday. That's awesome. He's my favorite actor. I did not know that. Thank you for that. Speaking of Keenum, he played for the Texans. I believe they won yesterday. Good to see old Minneapolis Miracle Case Keenum doing his thing out here. These are the names of the quarterbacks I got so far. I know there's at least 1 or 2 more. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Bill Cosby, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith, and Daniel Jones. Those are notable starters they're out. Now, I don't know the length of time like Geno Smith is going to be out. I know Anthony Richardson's done for the year. Burrow, Cousins, Rodgers, Daniel Jones, they're all done for the year. But I feel like there's still more. But
Justin Herbert's done for the year.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Herbie's done. Who else is out there? Aiden O'Connell's filling in for Oakland. So who did Oakland have?
Jimmy G.
I saw him with a hat and a uniform on the other day, though.
Yeah, I think he's
like a
recovering, I think.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think he's basically terrible, and they're probably better. And they're probably better off without him.
Hey, say what you want, man. Him in San Francisco, he was like 1 or 2 plays away from being a Super Bowl champ. That is wild to think about.
Yeah.
And the trajectory of that Chiefs team would have been vastly different. But yeah, there's so many quarterbacks that went down. Oh, thank you. We get to see who Charlotte likes. I love him in the movie with Tobey Maguire. Brothers. That's a good film. It's deep. It's a deep film.
Step Brothers?
Yes, Step Brothers,
movie.
the American classic.
I got a buddy that really likes Maggie.
Maggie's good. Although I don't know her in too many other movies outside of Batman, which I know I should.
You haven't seen Secretary?
I don't think so.
That is a spicy one.
Ooh, okay.
Very, very spicy.
I got nothing going on tonight. I might add that to the list. Let's go through the game, though. Frustrating, to say the least. The Vikings started off great. I think they score. Yes, they did score in the first quarter, which they haven't, I think, all season, which is nuts to think about, that you're at 500 and you don't score in the opening quarter of the entire year. Talked about Nick Mullins, 33 attempts, 26 completions for 303 yards, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns. Took 3 sacks for 22 yards. Some of those were ill-timed. Overall, I give him an average C+ performance. He did what he was supposed to do. I don't like the turnovers, especially near.
He threw several passes that should not have been thrown, and a couple of them he was really lucky were not intercepted. So yeah, he threw he rolled the dice a little too often, but he went out there and he played.
Before going to the rushing, though, what I do like is both of the touchdown passes that he threw were to Jordan Addison. I forgot that Justin Jefferson was back with us because I just assumed he was out for the year because we haven't seen him in so long. He and Jordan Addison combined for 195 yards. Jordan Addison has 2 touchdowns on the year, and you can go check an article out that Adam wrote. He's featured in that. Some things about the end of the season, I believe you wrote about.
Oh, yeah.
But, Jordan Addison is really close to getting 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, which is kind of crazy because that's the kind of season I expect like a Mike Evans to have every year or a Devontae Adams. I didn't expect the small frame rookie to come in and catch 10 touchdowns and have 1,000 yards, but he's well on his way. I really think that's
getting some great production out of him.
Yep. And he stepped up and helped fill the void when Jefferson was down. I think that speaks well for his future in Minnesota. It's too bad that Jefferson got hurt because, man, was he looking fantastic at the beginning of the season. And that's another one of those things, too, where, Kirk goes down and you lose Justin Jefferson. That's 2 major parts of your offense where even if you would have had JJ, even with the rotation of quarterbacks out there, that still would have given you, I think, a much better chance of winning a lot of these games that we've lost. So two big pieces that were out for Minnesota.
I was really worried about Addison, taking over and making up for some of the production that was lost when Adam Thielen left Minnesota, but so far not too bad.
I got to say this too. They said this during the game, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but I believe they said TJ Hawkinson has the most receptions in a season for a Vikings tight end, which made me laugh because, TJ, if you're hearing this, I want to tell you, I wear this with pride. I love this team, and I want you to be here for the next 5 to 7 years. I want all of your prime years to be in Minnesota. But I laughed when they said that. I was like, do you know how many times I've seen him fucking drop passes this year? And he's leading the season. And we have 3 games left. And I got a stats up right here. Dude, he's having quietly a stellar year. Only 5 touchdowns.
He better be for the money.
He's 98 yards away from 1,000-yard tight end season, which is nuts. He has 91 receptions. I would put my money down in my bank account right now that he's going to go over 100 and 1,000, respectively, for receptions and yards. For a tight end, I expect Travis Kelce to do that. Maybe George Kittle. Dude, we got a top 3 tight end in the National Football League. He is very good. I'm very happy for him.
We got shell-shocked a little bit as fans. Beginning of the season, there was a few bad drops and a few noticeable drops from TJ Hawkinson, but he's been able to reel it in, and he's, like you said, he's quietly having a pretty good season for Minnesota.
This is going to be his best season as a pro, and it's crazy because he hasn't made too many splashy plays. He's Mr. Reliable, man. I love that he's everybody's security blanket, no matter who the hell you throw out there, quarterback. So, Yeah, shout out to him. I wanted to pull those stats up. We'll finish out the receiving. Jordan Addison, 6 for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jefferson, 7 out of 10 for 84. And TJ Hawkinson, 6 of 7 for 63. Ty Chandler caught 3 passes too, which I'm very happy about. 303 yards passing in the day and receiving. Rushing, 143 yards on the ground. 23 carries, 132 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 5.7. Mr. Ty Chandler, have yourself a freaking day.
And we got to see the wheels that Mullins has.
Yeah, that's true. He is on the stat sheet for 6 carries for 10 yards.
And boy, does he run like a John Deere.
Like
see, John Deere's are reliable. That's the difference there with that, Adam.
Christ. You know, it's funny too. When I got to tour the facility earlier this year, that was the only person that was in there. I was like, where do I know this guy's face from? Oh,
John Deere was in there?
Yeah, John Deere. Mr. John Deere.
Right, we have not done game balls and donkeys, though, so we should probably do that.
Can we go backwards, please? Are we all gonna give Kevin O'Connell the donkey for this crazy, stupid? I can't believe you're any team not named Philadelphia doing that is absolutely ridiculous. Maybe Buffalo, because Josh Allen kind of reminds me of Big Ben and Cam with his body type, but I can't get over that.
Conceptually, it's a good play, but you're putting largely immobile Nick Mullins behind Garrett Bradbury, who's not a road grader, and then we're going to push him with 180-pound Brandon Powell. Conceptually,
Mullins, Bradbury, or
Kevin
O'Connell
really bad
are your
play.
3 picks, I think, for donkey.
Yeah. I have to go with Kevin O'Connell. It's low-hanging fruit, but after seeing Brian Flores screaming at him to take a timeout and him not taking it, I'm like, I hope he got in there and says, hey, look, I know I'm not a head coach anymore, but I've been here. You fucked up, man. You need to fix that. Because
Ivan Pace for yelling at Joe Mixon.
Yeah, they were getting into it, man. I didn't know that that video that's surfacing right now after the game.
I like it.
I like a rookie with confidence, man. He's a good linebacker.
How do you feel about Jake Brownings? He shouldn't have cut me.
I completely understand the narrative. However, no one on this team and no one in that management position cut you. So I'm not sure what you mean. But it is nice to beat your former team that you were, especially in the instance now. It's probably a little bit sweeter for him because Kirk Cousins is down, and he's probably like, I could have won you the game.
I wonder how much he learned from Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, you know how his quarterback rooms were. Oh, no.
Yeah, for my game ball, I'm going to go Jordan Addison. I think he had a fantastic game, and just what he can do so far is opening up a lot for this offense when other options aren't there. Because teams are really keying in on taking away both Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, and he is that reliable player to step in there and make bigger plays, and he's been that guy too that any quarterback looks to when it comes time to score a touchdown, and I love that. I do.
Kyle, who would you like to give your game ball to?
I mean, I think Ty Chandler is low-hanging fruit, but we've really needed that spark in that running game. And so just having some positive production out there on the field is a net win for the Vikings. Especially this late in December, you should not be having this conversation of like, who's the running back? So having someone out there is a positive.
I'm going to give
Wangu has not looked good when he has had opportunities. It just hasn't worked for him.
And he hasn't had that spark on the special teams yet. Hoping we can get at least one special teams touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think you're keeping him moving forward. The NFL's all but eliminated kickoff returns from the game, so you don't really need a guy who can do that.
No, you don't need to keep a specialist on your roster for that.
No, nope.
I'm going to go in a different direction because he's having more than a career year, and there's still 3 games left. I'm going to give my game ball to Danielle Hunter. 2 sacks in the game. I'm looking here, 5 tackles and then 2 quarterback hits. Boys, he has 15.5 sacks on the year. We have 3 games left. He is tied for second in the NFL in sacks. And I knew that Harrison Smith was going to have a good year under Brian Flores, but I didn't think about, what did we say? Especially Kyle and Adam, I know you said this too, but don't put him into coverage. Put his freaking knuckles in the ground and let him kill people. And he's been phenomenal. And he's been getting a lot of love from the national media too when they talk about the Vikings defense. I know they have their little nerd notes they go over before every game, but he's been in every game. He hasn't had a game where he hasn't showed up. And knock on wood, thank God he's been healthy the whole year. He's been a wrecking ball for us. So, Daniil Hunter, I see you. I really hope that you can stay. I don't think it'll happen, but
I'd love to see them find a way to pay him, but I don't see it.
And speaking of, we shared it in the chat. Didn't he pass Jared Allen for sacks in the franchise? That's fucking crazy, guys. We for what we think of Jared Allen, and I know he had teams before and after the Vikings. That's a pretty big milestone for the franchise. So congrats to him.
I mean, the Vikings aren't going to be able to extend him and Marcus Davenport. So what are we going to
do? There's the comedic relief I needed. Oh, man. That I give him credit. You know how we always say Kirk Cousins' agent is the GOAT of agents? He's the GOAT of defensive players, getting all that money for not doing shit every year. Should have saw that coming, but whatever. I heard some stat this weekend, and I don't know. I forgot where it was. It was on some podcast I was listening to, but about 30 to 40% of the free agents usually work out for every team where they're like, oh, yeah, we would do this signing again, or we end up extending the player or something like that. So did we all not kind of see the Marcus Davenport thing coming? He had, one good game in Carolina, and then he's out for the rest of the year?
Well, I've heard that debate about a couple players in Minnesota, and one I've heard both ways on is Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver?
Yeah, I've heard people say that.
Josh Oliver?
Investment. Josh Oliver, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was like, who the hell is Ed Oliver?
He's a defensive player for the Bills, isn't he?
Yeah, I was about to say, the big boy. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, the tight end. I think that he's been you're not going to see a lot of what he does on the stat sheet, but he has been catching some sneaky passes this year. And I know that's what fans see, so they did pay a lot of money to bring him in, though. Let's
look and see. 18 receptions. Damn, he has 2 touchdowns. I didn't even know he got in the end zone this year.
Yeah, he's been sneaky.
2 touchdowns, 132 yards on 18 receptions. So, yeah, I'd like to see a little more productive. That's not his job. I'll go to your point, Adam. That's not his job. That's C.J. Hawkinson's job all day to be on the stat sheet. The Vikings came away with 5 sacks on the day, which is unreal. 2 for Daniil Hunter, DJ Wanham, Josh Metellus, and Jonathan Bullard. Shout out to Jonathan Bullard. My dad knew that name when we went to the facility. He's like, is that the kid that went to Crest? And I was like, how the hell do you know that? Yeah, he played the rival high school in my town. So that's pretty cool. And he has a locker next to Kirk Cousins. Fun fact of the day. Caleb Evans did have an interception. Kenny Nwangwu, 1 return for 14 yards. Brandon Powell, 4 for 22. And rounding out special teams, Greg Joseph did his job. 1 of 1 for field goals, 3 out of 3 on extra points. And Ryan Wright punted 3 times for 152 yards.
Only 3 punts. I'll take that.
Right? They did everything right in this game until they did the few things wrong. Don't you love articles like that? Oh, man. So how are you guys feeling in the chat? Boys, how are you feeling about going forward? What do you think, and we'll do the cheap little guesstimate game. What do you think the Vikings are going to do in the next 3 games? What do you think? 0-3, 1-2, 2-1, or are they going to sweep everyone?
I think we're going to play Detroit a whole bunch. You're coming up soon.
It's looking that way unless we slide back down to the 7th. I love that we're playing Green Bay in Minnesota this time of year. We already got a win against them. Detroit is going to frustrate us because they've been playing like shit the last couple of weeks outside of a win this past Sunday, I believe. And I think they're going to run circles around the Vikings. I think if Kirk Cousins was here, I think this would be the NFC North coming back to Minnesota again, because what I've noticed with Detroit, even though they only have 4 losses on the season, man, that secondary is not good.
Goff has not been very good either the last couple of weeks. So
yeah,
it all depends what we get here. And Minnesota's defense, I think, is going to do what they can to confuse Goff. And I like that home game. I like that 2 of Minnesota's remaining 3 games on the schedule are home.
All division games.
Not that home has been a huge advantage for Minnesota lately, but I mean, it's better to be home than away for those. But I do like Minnesota in both those home games, so I'm hoping for wins in 2 of the 3, sneaking into the wild card, the playoffs, and then from there, I'm going in with 0 expectations. Because I don't want to go in thinking, okay, Minnesota could make some noise in the playoffs. To get in, anything can happen. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be, well, let's see how this goes.
I think, optimistically, I don't think there's a shot in hell they go 3-0 with this stretch. I think they still have another loss in their system. I'm hoping they win the 2 home games, which would put them at the end of the year 4-2 in the division, and that would put them at, 9-8 on the year. They probably get in the playoffs with that. If they win out, they're guaranteed to go to the playoffs. But I just don't see them rallying. It's really hard to play one team, even in the playoffs. If you say we played Philly again, they've already got tape on us from week 2. It's really hard to play a team 3 times in a month and to win all 3 meetings. It never happens.
Yeah.
Example: the Buccaneers when Tom Brady was there, they lose both regular season games to the Saints, and they go on the road, they beat them. It happens all the time. The Packers have cooled off a little bit. I know they got beat by the Giants, and I think they lost again to someone else. They're a beatable team, but I'd like to see Minnesota put it together for just one of the 2 Detroit games.
Yeah, they just lost to Tampa Bay, right?
Oh, yeah, they lost to the Giants and Tampa Bay, so it's close. Charlotte, how the hell do you not know who DJ Wanham is? He's been on the team for 5 years. My favorite DJ Wanham play, 2020 COVID year. Dalvin Cook has 4 rushing touchdowns and went into Green Bay and won. And the very last play, Aaron Rodgers just gets pummeled from behind. I don't know if you guys remember that play. It was very awesome. 1 out of 3. I mean, it's realistic. I don't know which one it could be. It's the Vikings. They could lose both the home games and win in Detroit for all we know. But I think if the offense can be consistent, they had a pretty good outing minus the turnovers this past week on the road. I think they could beat the Packers. I think the Packers are very beatable. The Lions are beatable in a certain way. It depends on if they scheme correctly. What I'm hoping is we catch a little bit of that midseason magic where they went on a 5-game win streak and really turned the season around. That's really what got the chances of us staying in the playoffs, getting to the playoffs, was that 5-game streak in the middle of the season. And the defense, I need them to go back to before the Bengals, because they did not do well this past weekend. Otherwise, defense has been pretty good. Didn't we share in the chat somewhere? 31st ranked defense last year, and they're top 5 in 2 categories going into last weekend. Yeah,
it's a pretty impressive turnaround real quick. And we're already seeing teams saying goodbye to their head coaches. So, I mean, this could be a rough situation for trying to hold on to Brian Flores as defensive coordinator.
I got to laugh at the fact that we lost to the Chargers with your favorite quarterback. Their quarterback goes down, and the team that beat them
what's his name? Easton Stick?
Something like that. We lose to the Chargers in week 3, but the team we just beat 3-0 puts up 60 points on the Chargers.
Boom. Yeah.
That's the most Minnesota shit I've ever heard of. My brother was super happy. The GM and the coach got fired in Los Angeles, so he's very pumped about that. He's like, it's only a year too late, but yeah, you're right. Coaches are going to be gone. There might be some crazy turnaround this year. I don't think Pittsburgh will walk away because they just don't have a history of firing their coaches. But I think the Mike Tomlin experiment is kind of over with. You kind of know what it is. You're going to get in the playoffs if you're lucky and do what? Lose to the Browns? Cool. Bill Belichick, we've seen what he's been without Tom Brady. Is that time coming to an end in New England?
If you're a head coach and you don't have that quarterback, you're probably hitting the road.
It's a lot
Mike
of it.
Tomlin strikes me as a coach where it's a little bit like Andy Reid at the end of Philadelphia, where you kind of run your course in a town for a while. And
Yes.
I could see him going to another franchise and doing the Andy Reid thing and turning it, making them big time contenders like what he did with Kansas City. So if he was to get released in Pittsburgh, you got to believe there's a lot of teams that would be trying to hire Mike Tomlin.
For sure.
Immediately, right?
I still think
Andy Reid was in Philadelphia. I thought that was Tom Hanks.
Nice. That's a good pun.
I love Tom Hanks.
I do too. I like his films a lot. Yeah, I still think the same. I think the same for Bill Belichick. And the reason why it wouldn't work in Los Angeles with the Chargers is I really think most of the teams are gonna. You should look to be an offensive guy, and that's not what Bill does. But I've seen the way Bill game plans, and when he has the right personnel, they're damn near impossible to beat. They've just drafted like shit the last couple of years, and that I like the Chargers roster. I don't know if I like the coach, but he's not there anymore. So you think about little pieces of who could go where, and it's funny too. I see like on Cowherd, it pops up on my YouTube all the time. They're like, you'll love this. Who's going to take over in LA? That's probably the most desirable job because you got a young quarterback, you got a couple pieces. It's a good city. First name that pops up is Jim Harbaugh. It's like, are we doing this shit again? Really? They're about to win a national championship, and you're going to be like, oh, we're going to pull him away from Michigan. The other two names were Dan Quinn. Forgot about him. He's doing the Lord's work in Dallas for that defense. Good God, that defense is good. Yeah.
Brian Flores is definitely getting calls.
He's gonna get
the way he's been able to turn around this defense. Like, there will be multiple teams, I think, that will be interested in him, and I'm really curious to see what he wants to do. Will he stick around for another year in Minnesota? Does he believe in the culture that they're building, in the program that they're building here, or is he going to, take an opportunity elsewhere to be a head coach in the NFL?
Mike, they're keeping Kevin O'Connell. I think this ownership group heard and listened to the players, which I greatly appreciate. These are billionaire owners. They don't have to listen to these players. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
If Flores is promoted, it's going to be to a figurehead position like assistant head coach or something like that.
Yeah, I just don't think that would jive.
Head coach.
Yeah,
I don't think that would jive with everything.
But it'll be a knock up in pay and an up in title for him, and that's good stuff. That's probably what Minnesota will have to put on the table for him.
I'd like to see him stay one more year, and they get a good draft. I don't think the defense is going to drop off dramatically. I think it's amazing what he's done, and it's cool. We mentioned it on a show or two before this one. Anthony Barr was talking with Paul Allen. It was really weird to see him in a 54 jersey, and he was like,
"Yeah,
you guys missed that episode." I'm paraphrasing what Anthony Barr said, but he goes, "You look on paper, and we're in the meeting. We're like, we're not going to do that. That's fucking crazy." He's like, then we get on the field, and we're like, holy shit, we're really doing this. I think that's really cool for the average football fan that doesn't know the ins and outs and the specifics. You're hearing this from a guy who got drafted in 2014, and he's been with the team most of his career, and he's like, this dude's nuts, and it's cool. I really like that. Yeah, to answer your question, Mike, they're keeping Kevin O'Connell. Right now, I think his record is 20-11 in 2 years. I think it's pretty obvious. I think the boys would agree. This ownership group saw what Zimmer did with the toxicity, and I'm not knocking Brian Flores at all. Every coach has their style, but I got to look at the track record of he's kind of a hard ass and kind of an asshole is the rumor mill. And also, I hate to do this because I think he only had 1 year with him. Tua looks really good with Mike McDaniel, and he looked really not with Brian Flores. So I don't know if I want him in charge of a young quarterback if he was to replace Kevin O'Connell. They're not going to replace Kevin O'Connell. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
Not if Minnesota can do anything about it as far as Brian Flores. I mean, they're gonna put whatever they can on the table for him outside of a head coaching position.
I think that wraps it up. The Vikings broke me again this week, guys. They'll tell you in the chat between the three of us. I was cursing up a storm. I'm so irritated with these guys giving games away.
So Christmas Eve, we got a Vikings game, and we got a game on New Year's Eve night, which is wild. I don't think I've ever watched football on New Year's Eve night. This is going to be new to me.
He didn't have Hill at the time of 2-2. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Sean Hill?
Yeah, Sean Hill, quarterback.
You didn't have Sean Hill. That's the problem.
I can't. It's equal 50-50 parts that I love and hate you guys for these fucking puns that you keep throwing in here. They're so good, but they're so bad. Sean Hill made an appearance on the show today, guys. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
but there hasn't been a lot of news or anything like that, and Minnesota didn't have really many injuries at all during this game, so that's all good.
That's a good positive
We also
sign.
don't have an update on any of the ongoing Viking stories at the moment, so been kind of quiet.
Yeah. Like we mentioned earlier, we'll wrap the show up, but the Vikings currently sit at the 6th seed in the playoffs. They're 7-7. The Rams are nipping at their heels. They are 7-7 as well. I've noticed more on the NFC side, it's very top heavy because there's a couple of double-digit team wins, and then there's a lot of mediocrity at the bottom.
I like top heavy. That works for me.
I like bottom heavy, but I understand it. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, the next 2 games are at home. So Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, there will be 2 home games at US Bank. And out of the 3 that are left, they're all division games. So Detroit, Green Bay, Detroit, home, and away. And I believe the New Year's Eve game, is it New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve is the whiteout game?
Christmas Eve.
So this weekend is the whiteout game. If you're going to US Bank, wear white. That was a lot of fun last year. I personally hate anything football related.
I don't like wearing white.
I can't do it. I'm always afraid I'm going to stain it.
I'm too messy.
Yeah, same. And it'll always be something that's completely contrasts, like ketchup or barbecue sauce or some shit that's
Salsa.
not going to come out. Yeah. But yeah, let's root on the Vikings. Christmas Eve, playing the Lions. I believe it's at 1 p.m. It's not going to be crazy time, but to round it out before we promote everything, because I do want you guys to like and subscribe to the channel. YouTube especially, go click that notification bell when I schedule the show. Just like Jonathan mentioned earlier in the chat, doing a little promotion for me, you'll get a notification that tells you when we're going live so you can jump in. I have to reiterate from a couple weeks ago, I'm not going to make this too like corny or cliche or whatever, but take care of yourselves, guys. Christmas is coming around. If you have a negative connotation with Christmas, kind of like I do. I lost my mother like 2 days after. I've gotten bad news health-wise recently. Lean on your friends, reach out to people, do something to get out of the house if you can, just to lift your spirits up. But we here at the Purple People Pod, thank you for tuning in to all of our nonsense for yet another year. I cannot believe I have been doing the show with these guys for 10 years now. It's kind of crazy to think.
One of the ways we do love to thank you is through our Survival League, and we did have 2 winners this year, and I passed the emails along to Kyle Smith and Mr. West. I don't know if we've done anything with that yet.
We haven't, but I will do it, and I will put my word down today. I have nothing going on tonight. I will get those out to you as soon as you reply back to me. I'll shoot you an email to the Survival League winners. We are going to give you a T-shirt, a Purple People Podcast T-shirt, and a hoodie or sweatshirt of your choosing. And that's absolutely free on the house, so let me know.
I want a Team Jacob sweatshirt.
Jacob.
I love Twilight. Yippee!
I'll leave you with all the Twilight stuff.
I watched the first movie. I haven't seen any after that, though.
Yeah, I was at a bar earlier this year, and they had Twilight on, and I was like, this is what we're going with?
Really?
Okay. Kind of weird.
Bar were you at?
Yeah, that's a weird
It was
bar.
an Irish pub back home, but I was like, and the funny part was, it's like that small town shit. I was like, you guys change the channel? They're like, we don't have the remote. I don't have the ladder to change it.
That's great.
So the TV just stays on.
But you can check out my work over on the Viking Age. I'm putting out articles usually every Thursday and Sunday. I've got new, bigger articles coming out, and then Wednesday and Saturday, probably a couple smaller ones, maybe something throughout the week. Every after the day after every Vikings game, I got my takeaways coming out, and those are always fun. I try to look at interesting ways to evaluate the team's win or loss and see how it affects the team going forward. And I hope you guys check that out, because I would like to have a little bit more readership over there, and I appreciate those of you who share the articles and let me know that you do that. I appreciate all that. I also appreciate the people that come in the chat here and enjoying the conversation, because that's fun. One of the places you can watch us live is over on my Twitch channel, which is at MNVikingZombie. And I'm also on pretty much any social media that you can imagine. Just add me at MNVikingZombie, and we can chat over there. Otherwise, that's about all I got.
And you can check me out over on Blue Sky at Vaguely Square. That is my social media platform of choice. I talk a little bit of Vikings football and movies, and I post some of my photography work as well too. So check me out. As like I always say, help share and support work from your local artists, us writers, photographers, whatever. You gotta keep people like Adam and I from being replaced by the AI. So that's the best way to do it.
Was it one of you guys that were telling me about the guy from Sports Illustrated that got fired?
Yeah,
Adam.
Yep, we talked
Kyle
about that last
about
week
that
on the show.
Because
pretty insane.
That made me pretty happy.
Yep, the pushback from it. So you got to be vocal about that kind of stuff and make your voice heard. It does matter.
You can buy Kyle West's stuff here at kylewest84.pickfair.com. Great photography, and your Redbubble, I believe it is where we can get Purple People Podcast merch.
Correct.
I wanted to plug that too. So I'm going to be buying the Survival League winners stuff. So I'm going to go through and email you guys today. Appreciate that. My handle, Kyle Smith at NC Dog Dude. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X or Twitter, whatever you'd like to call it, if you want to see me get spirited about things that are not important. That's all I've got. Thank you guys, and Merry Christmas.
I hope that one of these days, Mr. Smith and I can do another horror movie review. That'd be nice. Been a little while.
We can definitely make that happen.
But yeah, we'll be back sometime after Christmas to talk about this game against the Detroit Lions, because I think that for the game being on Christmas Eve, and then we'll probably take Christmas Day for ourselves, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll be sometime after that we will gather back up and get ready to talk about Vikings football. So we'll be back sometime then. And hopefully Minnesota can do well wearing this all-white outfit. And in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.